I'm pleased to welcome you to our webinar on digital solutions for civil engineering and infrastructure. My name is Manuel Frinke. I'm your host today, giving the introduction and taking over the Q&A part in the end. Sorry, Diego, can you please mute your microphone for a second? Thank you. So Diego Sancho Calderon is our Deputy Head of Project Management, and he will open the webinar introducing DMT Group. Tamer Abdelkader, Digital Engineering Manager, will then take you into a deeper dive of our digital solutions for the infrastructure market. I'm responsible for marketing communications at DMT Group and will be here to take care of your questions during the webinar. Our digital services for civil engineering and infrastructure cover the entire project lifecycle, from the early inception and programming phase throughout design and construction up to operation and maintenance. The focus lies on a transparent environment to enable data sharing and enhance real-time collaboration. In this way, DMT's digital solutions lead to optimized workflows, informed decision-making, and reliable project delivery. Now, before we get started, just a few words about the webinar. The webinar will be recorded while maintaining your anonymity. We will make it available as a stream to all participants. If you would like to receive the recording or the slides, please let us know in the chat. The chat is also anonymous. You will receive an email from us after the session with the material. You are invited to ask questions in the chat box. For organizational reasons, we will collect them, and I will ask the questions to the experts at the end of the show. If you would like us to contact you after the webinar, please also post it in the chat. Only we can see your entries here. Now, let's get started, and with this, I hand it over to Diego.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manuel, and thank you, Tamer, also for being here for this webinar. So I will start by giving a very short introduction on, on DMT and our civil and mining engineering division. And afterwards, I will hand over to Tamer for the digital engineering presentation and some of our sample projects in this area. So to start with, DMT is an engineering company, which is a part of the TUV Nord group. We are mainly busy in the areas of infrastructure as the engineering and natural resources division of the TUV Nord group, which is a large group of more than 12,000 people all over the world. Including mobility, industrial services, trainings, and aerospace and IT. So as DMT, we are taking care of the engineering and consulting part of this group. The background of DMT is mainly in mining, in the history, but now we are also in civil engineering, geotechnics, on all kinds of infrastructure projects where we are applying our innovation in digitalization of the engineering process. We have more than 30 offices around the world in such places like Australia, Middle East, Canada, and of course Europe. And we have more than 1,200 people. We've been part of the TUV Nord group since 2007. So the roots of DMT date back to the 18th century, as we started actually as a collection of institutes and expert bodies for the German coal mines. Which later on evolved and consolidated into a company in the mining engineering and research and development areas for the mining in the Ruhr area in Germany. At the moment, we have more than 130 million euros of turnover, and it is DMT is a core brand of TÜV Nord group. It's the engineering for infrastructure, mining, and industrial areas. So, of course, the DMT is a collection of very specialized people. We have a lot of innovation, research and development going on. We have very regular presentations in conferences, also as keynote speakers, etc. A lot of patents and officially recognized experts. For example, we have more than 40 current research projects, for example, with EIT raw materials or with the research fund for coal and steel in Europe. And of course, we are certified according to the relevant ISO certificates. This is an overview of our locations all over the world. You can see here how we work connected. Actually, Tamer is sitting in the UAE today. So we have a close collaboration and networking between the different offices of DMT so that we can work as a team and deliver the best services to our clients. This is an excerpt of the associations and networks which we or our employees belong to. I think you will find there a lot of commonly known associations. Our selected customers, of course, we have hundreds of customers, but I think it's interesting to see how wide our portfolio is, and that reflects in our customer groups. For example, you can see here major mining companies like BHP Billiton. You can see oil companies like Suncor or Shell, but also banks and other types of companies, for example, for which we do pre-feasibility studies or economical feasibility studies. This one is also, for example, you can see the Deutsche Bahn, which is the German railway company, which we work for in terms of infrastructure projects. The World Bank, which we work for example, for development projects in places such as Africa or Romania in the last few years. And inside of DMT, of course, we have several sections, several divisions. One of them is civil and mining engineering, which is taking care of the infrastructure projects mainly. And that is where Tamer and I are actually seated. Here's an overview of what we mainly do in civil and mining engineering. Civil engineering and geotechnics, of course. We have wide expertise in geotechnical engineering. Then there is root engineering and infrastructure, utilities, for example, pipeline engineering in terms of the route the pipeline has to take, or other line engineering such as electrical, geophysics, all kinds of borehole and surface geophysics, seismic, etc. Hydrogeology and water management, monitoring, surveying, and big data management. This is, for example, where we have some developers, software developers, which are also taking care of our digital projects, and the environmental engineering and remediation mining section. So to close this section, just a short overview of each of these 6 disciplines. In terms of geotechnics, you can see here we do turnkey planning of underground excavations, tunneling, mine access design, etc. For root engineering, for example, now we are engaged in the Südlink project here in Germany in terms of right-of-way management, and here it's also related to the digital technologies, as we are taking care of GIS documentation and CAD, and we are trying to optimize and automatize the engineering process in this regard. In terms of geophysics, of course, this is a very core competence of DMT for many, many years has been. Then hydrogeology and water management, which is mainly originated from the coal mining, where we did hydrogeological assessments for the mines. So, for example, very interesting, we are doing the water management for the rural area and avoiding that the rural area is flooded due to the subsidence caused by the coal mines before. Again, monitoring and big data management. This is again very related to what Tamer is going to present in just a moment. For example, we have a DMT Safeguard, which is an in-house solution for monitoring of any kind of aspects, for example, with inclinometers, with temperature monitoring, whatever it is, we can monitor it. It's a very open solution. And finally, we also have environmental engineering, which takes care, for example, of mine remediation or analysis of contaminated sites and so on. And with this, I will hand over to Tamer, who will present you our digital services in more detail.
Thank you so much, Diego. Hi, everyone. I'm Tamer Abdelkader, and thank you for joining. So let's jump quickly to DMT. And to walk you through quickly for the digital services, we have, of course, a very diverse pool of resources, as Diego just mentioned, and we have also acknowledged global certifications, and recently we've been certified for the ISO 19650, which is like the new product that is related to the digitization of engineering data and application of building information model. For the digital engineering services that we provide actually a very big range, and we'd like to think always solutions, not only services. So talking about the digital solutions, we have from the early stages of the project of data acquisition and conversion, when we're talking about capturing the as-built condition of any site, the data analysis, reporting, solutions development, integrations, image processing, and raster data analysis when it comes to satellite imagery or any drone imagery, for example, or any raster data sets. Design conceptualization through also digital tools, value engineering, digital twins. We have a very good project now running on Expo 2020 in Dubai. We have also design management platforms in-house. And then, of course, we have solutions that monitor the performance, not only of the digital domain, but also for the overall project implementation. So with the KPI, like the cost, the schedule, the quality, all these KPI monitoring and controlling tools. And of course, like our core business rotates around the BIM and the GIS and the spatial technologies in general. And we can take this to process automation and workflow optimization. And as you can see, it's kind of it's an iterative effort. So it's not like a start-end process, but it's an actually iterative and more progressive process whereby we kind of enhance our services and further development with develop it with the leverage at our clients or even internally. All right, so looking at the building information modeling specifically at DMT, we have like a very good and solid core team for the BIM implementation. The thing is, for us, BIM, it's not only about design, it extends, it extends across the entire project lifecycle from the early programming and analysis stage, moving through the design stage, and of course the construction and operation. So for us, BIM is kind of an enabler for project excellence. It's not a tool that we only leverage in one area, such as the design collaboration or the visualization, but we try to leverage it in many other domains, such as the validation and detecting the best design option. Of course, the volumetric analysis and some kind of visual analysis like the line of sight. Energy modeling, because we can simulate the performance of the networks before it is built. The clash management and design collaboration is one of the very famous areas for the BIM implementation. Quantification, of course, and costing and producing the bill of quantities. And I would say that this is one of the very challenging areas for all the organizations that rely on the conventional quantity surveying methods, because it's very time consuming and it's very hard to capture all the design changes that will imply changes in quantities. And of course, as mentioned before, the progress monitoring and other areas like safety and quality and smart operation. Let me just go. Talking about the BIM technically or the spatial technologies, there are many challenges. And as mentioned, we like always to think solutions to these challenges. But before providing our solutions, I would like to shed a quick light on the challenges. There are several challenges actually faced through the infrastructure digital solutions specifically. And there's actually a dedicated presentation on the challenges. I just got a very small bit of it. Different types of challenges. So we can say that there are some technical ones and there are some business related ones, and even there are some social challenges related to the culture of the organization itself. But I picked a couple. So talking about the technical challenges, relatively the infrastructure stuff that are, I would say, understanding the digital nature and understanding the intelligence that BIM or spatial technology brings to the business are relatively low. So the trainings and all the resources that we see in the market, they are kind of focused on the application of the tool itself, like using Civil 3D or Revit or whatever, but they do not understand the bigger picture. So we always focus on not losing the bigger picture when digging deep into the details. We make sure that we maintain the concept of intelligence and transparency in all of our data exchange, for example. Design tools also, they have some limitations. They are applied from the technology vendors. So if you compare the infrastructure design authoring and collaboration tools to the ones that are developed for buildings, for example, you will find that the buildings tools, they are much more advanced. We have to understand these limitations and to introduce tools to overcome these limitations. And I will give some examples in the coming slides. And of course, there are challenges related to the hosting environment itself, because when we're talking about digital solutions, we're talking about a very solid environment of hardware and software infrastructure that needs to enable a reliable environment and atmosphere whereby we do not face any side challenges such as the big data storage, the data interoperability, the security, of course, the cyber security and cloud computing, and so on. Some business challenges also are the ones that we always think at a more strategic level when we come of adoption of digital services. So for example, is it aligned with the organization objective or the project objective? Does it really bring value to the business, or we are just following the trends? One more thing is, do we really do it right? Is there any performance monitors or KPIs where we can say that, yes, we are on the right path, or we are maybe lacking, or maybe we are overspeeding? So we try to develop realistic KPIs based on the project conditions and based on the implementation constraints, so that we make sure that we are on the right track, or at least we try to develop some realistic measurements that gives us checkpoints on quality of implementation. And then there are some procurement and legal, of course, challenges, because till now the BIM models in nature, they are not a physical product that are not approved, that are not delivered as a hard copy, that needs to be stamped and needs to be approved. And of course, the model ownership, it transfers or it changes across the project life cycle. Like for example, at the early design stage, the model, when it starts from scratch, it starts maybe from the design consultant side, or even sometimes earlier from the employer side, because they bring some as-built models, and then it transfers to the design consultant, and then during construction, the model, which will become more developed, will transfer to the contractor, and then it will transfer to the operation and maintenance contractor. So this soft landing and this transfer of ownership and the liability at each stage is still not defined clearly in crisp, clear boundaries. But there are very good efforts to standardize this worldwide. However, now it's currently undertaken at a single project level, which is sufficient at the moment. And then the last challenge, we would say the return on investment. So really, will BIM pay back? So now we always think, is it feasible? Is it financially viable? Does it help us to make more money? Until now, I would say that there are no clear ideas on the cost savings, although there are some statistics that have been published, but again, they depend on many other factors, like, for example, the maturity of the organization implementing BIM and the maturity of the client and the stakeholders. And of course, not to mention the costs applied by procuring the licenses or additional hardware if needed. On
Tamer, you are on mute. Please unmute.
Sorry. So on top of these challenges, now we have other challenges that are applied by the recent situation of the pandemic. No business was not interrupted by the pandemic. So on top of the previous ones, we can say that some emerging challenges that actually were applied, such as the maintaining the safety of the organization-owned people, of course, the remote working condition that we all exercised, restructuring and reforming and being more agile and optimized to remain financially solvent. And of course, because BIM, it includes the entire supply chain. So we're talking about suppliers, stakeholders, design consultants, cost consultants, contractors, employers. So we need to understand how to restructure this value chain to make sure that we are getting the best, or to maximize the value out of the value chain, and definitely how to use technology to gain this operational leverage or edge among competition. So like very quickly, these are the challenges that we think of, and whenever we introduce a solution, these are what we have in our mind. So looking now at a couple of the solutions that we developed internally in DMT, I would say that one of the very clever applications that is developed really within DMT is the sensor-based applications, and our like big product is called Safeguard. And Safeguard, it's a sensor-based system whereby it integrates the real-time data feeds that are captured from the site using different sensor types, and then it overlays these feeds and measurements on top of a map component. And this gives the spatial power, because instead of getting readings from different sensors on tabular format or on non-spatial format, it will add the location aspect, the dimension, because it contributes to the decision to be on a much more informed situation, whereby you can take decision when a specific threshold, for example, is hit by the sensor measurements, for example. So we have here different types of sensors: geotechnical sensors, multimedia sensors, surveying sensors, of course, underground installations, because we are also concerned about the deep tunnels, for example, and geophysical data. So Safeguard is one of our, again, I would say, excellent products. And here it gives a clear example how it relies on the direct feeds, and then it overlays this on top of the 3D model that might be developed from the BIM platform, or even some GIS data from the surrounding public realm or as-built facilities. As you can see here, these are examples of the sensors that are installed on specific steel structures to monitor some kind of indicators, and even sometimes when it is hard to establish connectivity, wireless connectivity within these sensors and the capturing platform, we also undertake the installation of access points to establish the wireless connectivity. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor moving or not. So, Manuel, do you see my cursor moving?
No, we can't. Please
Okay.
click on the blue arrow.
On the blue arrow. I have to check. Yes. Okay. So you can see now this.
Now we can see it.
All right. Very good. So as you can see here, these are the sensors that are installed on the steel structures to monitor some indicators. And whenever we need to establish a connectivity where there are no wireless connectivity established, we can also install access points to make sure that these feeds are immediately fed to the monitoring platform. All right. One of the applications of this safeguard and other services that were developed by DMT is one of the biggest projects in DMT, which is SuedLink. SuedLink, of course, is the South Link. That is a huge electricity transmission project between Germany and Norway. And if you can see quickly the numbers, it's like 700 kilometers length of road, and then it's almost 5,600 kilometers of cables. And imagine how many construction contracts, and this can give you an idea about the magnitude of the stakeholders that we might be engaged with. And of course, the land plots that will be acquired or that will be impacted by the construction. So this is one of the projects that DMT had to provide design support, monitoring, and testing for this project. Other solution that also we developed in DMT, which is the application of GeoBits. And GeoBits is a GIS application that we developed for one of our clients. And this is, as you can see, it's a map viewer that is built on top of Esri ArcGIS, and this is a spatial viewer that has a kind of focus on displaying the infrastructure data from external resources. So this data is not like local data that is stored on the client server, but we actually integrate with many data suppliers to make sure that we have data from different data suppliers and then display it in one map view with that has the same look and feel. And GeoBits is actually one of the very, I would say, intelligent applications that provided very good solution. The client is one of the developers in Abu Dhabi, and they needed this application not only to view data but also to analyze and to query and to report on some infrastructure and cadastre data, such as the plots, such as even having some analysis on the buffer and where is the nearest service and where is the closest route and so on. So and not only this, of course, it is also developed to produce some maps and export maps in different formats. So this is about I don't know why it keeps getting back. So this is about developing a solution that really fits to the customer requirements without oversizing it or adding unnecessary functionalities. On top of this, we added also some custom applications, such as, for example, exporting to Google Maps format, the KMZ files, or even comparing between the two views, the Google Maps and the Esri data services. And of course, this will be overlaid on top of the external data supply that are available locally. Again, when we look at the concept of solutions provision, we provided this tool. This is a purely custom tool on top of the CAD environment, such as the AutoCAD or Civil 3D. And this tool is, although it might look very simple, but to our surprise, that was not available in any of the currently available tools in the market. And for the infrastructure expert, they will understand easily what I mean. Whenever we have a service corridor or a service reservation assigned, this means that this area is blocked. Of course, this is a virtual element. This is not actually built, but this is kind of a range that is assigned to special service. And whenever we have a very tight right of way, we don't have enough land. Sometimes we have some shared corridors between multiple services. So for example, you might have a shared corridor that hosts the gas network and the telecom network. And you might have some crossing corridors also, or service reservations, especially in the junctions and the intersections. So in order to make sure that the construction will not face any difficulty seeing that these service reservations on site will have problems, because for some specific networks, you have to have some buffer and you have to have some protection beside it. So we try to find any tool in the market where it can checks the interferences between these corridors, and to just give us an indication if there is an interference, is it within the acceptable range or not? And is it within the acceptable types of networks that can be shared or not? So we had to develop this tool, and this tool, it's again, it's based on the CAD environment, not because we could not do it in BIM. Actually, this can be done in BIM, but the thing is, these service reservations or utility corridors are actually done in 2D. So here I'm talking about the UAE case, for example. Normally, this is what we call the rainbow plan, and this rainbow plan, it is at the 2D level, whereby you overlay all the combined utility corridors together, and then you start doing some kind of interference checks. And the current method was using visual inspection, or exporting all this data to GIS, and then trying to do some applying some topology rules to see the intersections and so on. It was not an easy process. It was really a time consuming. And the thing is, whenever there's a change in design, you will have to rerun this exercise over and over again. So this is how we thought of this problem, and we decided to do this solution, and we put it in a CAD environment so that it will be very easy, and it will not require modeling of the full networks until we start doing the normal clash resolution process within the BIM environment. This is why we came up with this tool that will be at a click of a button, will tell you which corridors you have, and which corridors should be tested against which. And it will also show us whenever we have some clashes or interferences between the adjacent corridors. This tool actually was embedded in Civil 3D, and it was also adopted by one of our clients in Abu Dhabi. Not only we are talking about the spatial component, but also we are thinking about the process, the agility of the process. So we have developed, or I can say we have customized our project information management system, which is PIMS, and this is a DMT solution that is customized based on different technologies. And this is something that we can use it internally or even leverage it at our project. So we can create external user groups, and we can include users from our customers or our suppliers or stakeholders, whereby we can store the project documents. We can, of course, create some workflows mainly for the approvals or the revisions. And of course, we can add more project controls, such as the risk and the quality and health and safety. So I don't want to take much of your time, but I'm just giving you a quick glimpse on the solutions that we have. The thing is, we always think of the value rather than being led by technology that does not really bring value to our clients. This doesn't mean that we are not exploring. We are still maintaining an innovative culture that incubates and hosts any new ideas, like disruptive ideas or architectural innovation ideas that might turn out to be financially feasible at some point. So whenever we see a solution we can come up with and start rendering and providing to the market. So yeah, that's it for the digital solutions. And then I believe I will hand it back now to Diego to give you a quick idea about our products. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tamer, for the very interesting explanation on the digital product, the digital services. Just give you a brief overview of our selected products. Actually, I already talked a little bit about DMT Safeguard, which is an automated real-time monitoring system, which is actually a web-based platform in which the different measurements from the sensors are shown, and it can be seen which sensor is measuring what at which time. The values can be controlled. We can implement alerts which give you an alarm, for example, via SMS or email in case some threshold values, for example, deformation values from deformation sensors are over. And then we have DMT Gyromat, for example, which is a very precise machine built in-house at DMT, which is used in tunneling to give the direction for the tunnel underground. This is used all over the world. Our experts are traveling to such places like Dubai or Vancouver to do these measurements. And then I wanted to show here the core scan, which is also an example of our digitalization technologies. It is actually a device with which we can digitize and practically document very, very properly the core from drillings. Instead of having a paper documentation, we have a scanned documentation with standardized photograph. And actually, currently we are working on it being able to do a quick chemical analysis on site, which would enhance the reaction capability of the drilling company, of the drilling campaign, to adapt the drilling campaign to the chemical analysis of the core. I think with this, we want to end our presentation, and we will be happy to answer any questions you have. And I will give over to Manuel.
Yes, thank you, Diego and Tamer, for this very interesting introduction. We received a couple of questions, and before I ask them, again, dear audience, if you want to ask a question after the webinar now, please post it in the chat so I can ask it to the experts. Now, here's the first question. So looking at the current situation of the pandemic, what are the advantages of the digital solutions regarding the currently imposed global challenges?
Okay, I can answer this if you allow me.
Sure.
So as said, the pandemic applied several challenges actually on the situation. However, I prefer to look at these as opportunities when we look at the digital domain, because believe it or not, that the pandemic actually had expedited the digital transformation process. So there are a couple of studies that were published by McKinsey & Company that actually stated, I think, 10 digital applications that were expedited by really an impressive factor, an acceleration factor as an average of like 30 times faster than how fast it was supposed to go in the normal life condition if there was no pandemic. So I remember they stated digital trends like, for example, the increase in remote working, the increase of advanced technologies in operations, and demand of online purchasing and so on. So these studies, I encourage you all to read it. They are published by McKinsey and Company, and I believe that the pandemic had a good impact to the digital world, and this can be looked at as an opportunity. As mentioned, you know, there's a very famous quick story of the marketeers that two marketeers were sent to an island to sell hats. So the first marketeer came back and said, we have no chance there because they know nothing about hats. And the other one came back and said, we have a great potential there because they know nothing about hats. So it all depends on how you look at it. You know, if you look at the pandemic as kind of an obstacle for growth, then it will be. But I prefer to look at it as an opportunity for growth. Now we are more welcoming, and there is a much better appetite in the global market to understand and to adopt digital solutions. So only the ready organizations will survive. And this is how the market will be disrupted by faster and more agile players. And the historical leadership and the size of the organization will not be a guarantee for future success unless you adopt really digital technologies that will help you survive in the coming few days or few weeks.
Yeah, thank you. That was an interesting view on the mostly negative side of the pandemic we experienced. Here's another one. In what way do the DMT solutions differ from other solutions in the market?
Okay, I can take this one as well, if you allow me, Diego. Well, as said, the digital solutions from DMT are always derived from the business requirements. We are not a technology vendor. We do not sell softwares like Autodesk or Bentley, for example. So unless we face a real case that has a realistic meaning on the project implementation side, then we adopt it. Otherwise, we'll just leave it to the standalone feature set that are already there in the off-the-shelf solutions that are provided in the market. So whenever we provide something, we tailor it to our customers' requirements and expectations. We make sure that it really has a financially feasible impact on the project or on the product that we are delivering. When you, for example, purchase an off-the-shelf solution that has, I don't know, 1,000 features and functionality, you may be using 30 only. But when you come to DMT for a custom solutions, we will give you these 30 only. We will not burden you with unnecessary functionalities and so on. So this is one edge. The second thing is, of course, the tailoring to the specific business. As I mentioned before in the challenges, sometimes it becomes really hard to find an easy workflow to follow using the digital tools because they are technically limited. So sometimes you have to bounce between different software platforms. Sometimes you have to go for external suppliers or data suppliers and so on. But our solutions, like the design management platform, for example, it brings all this into one screen that has the same look and feel, although it might have different systems running in the background, but at least it will make sure that the engineers will do their work, and it will minimize any difficulties that they might face using the technical tool itself, because it is very compatible with their day-to-day business.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. So I don't see more questions at the moment, so I think we can close the session today. Thanks to the audience for your interest. Thanks, Diego and Tama, for your presentation. Yeah, everyone, thank you. Have a nice day, and stay well and healthy. And see you next time in one of our webinars. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.